For today's talk, I'm always trying to apply the Buddhist teachings to the problems of everyday life. And the topic I'm going to be talking about this evening, it's a challenging topic, is the right to believe. And this was motivated by many things in the last week. One was seeing a documentary which somebody showed me on a DVD from Channel 4 BBC of Richard Dawkins, The Root of All Evil, which was all about the problem of fundamentalist beliefs in our world, which was quite shocking just to see the sorts of hatred which can be inspired by belief. And it makes you start to think of your beliefs and just how solid they are and whether they are going to be dangerous. But it's also because that belief in many different ways really affects our society. And sometimes you ask the question, with religious freedoms, have you got a right to believe in whatever you want? And if so, why are there supposed to be restrictions? So this is a very powerful topic. I'm not sure whether I can do justice to it, because as usual, it's always extempore, without any plan of what I'm going to speak about, but based on some of the understandings of the Dhamma, of Buddhist teachings, and the nature of the mind, and how the consciousness works, and how beliefs are formed, and the danger of following those beliefs. So this is a talk on the right to believe. And I would actually say that most of us would accept the fact that some beliefs, one does not have the right to believe in anything. And to point out the reason why I say that, there's sometimes that people do suffer from that terrible disease of schizophrenia, where they can believe that someone is speaking to them to kill all prostitutes, or they've had a command from what they think is of a god, to sort of blow up the government. Whatever it is, that those beliefs which people have and they're sincerely believed in, they are obviously regarded by our community as a source of beliefs which you have no right to believe in at all, because they're dangerous to yourself and dangerous to others. And such a person would be seeking or be obliged to take some medication. There are extreme views, which I think everyone would say, you have no right to believe in such things. And that's an extreme, but that establishes the fact that we have no right to believe in anything. And there are other sort of beliefs which may not be as dangerous, can be so dangerous, can be almost as dangerous. Certainly we talk about the beliefs of the suicide bombers, the beliefs of the people who flew the aircrafts into the Twin Towers, and the beliefs in people who would oppress, the female gender, or people who would oppress those who are following a gay lifestyle. Have they got the right to hold that belief that, say, homosexuality is a sin? And I think that many of us here would actually say, no, that is the wrong view, and they have no right to believe in that, because such belief is not a personal issue anymore. Because beliefs aren't something which one just carries around in one's head, or which one just expresses on the Sabbath day or the Sunday or the Saturday or here on a Friday night by coming to a Buddhist temple or a mosque or a church or something. The beliefs which one has, that's what informs and generates one's actions. The way one speaks, the way one acts, what one does in life, all comes from one's beliefs. And so if in a society we identify that some beliefs are dangerous, should they be allowed to exist? Is that sort of not being responsible for our society? There is a huge problem here on the right of beliefs. But to understand what I'm talking about here, I think the problem is that the beliefs are usually in the wrong things. We do have what we call almost like a priority list of beliefs. What is the most important and what is middle importance and what is least importance in our belief systems. And what I understand in Buddhism is it's a categorization, it's a priority of beliefs. When they are not put in the right order, create the problems of violence and a dysfunctional society. Basically, we're believing in the wrong things first, when they should really come second. Some years ago, I remember reading an article, it was many years ago, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, when some fundamentalists, I think it could have even been Sikhs, or it could have been Muslims, in north of India, that they burned a stall and killed the proprietor and his wife of a tiny stall because they sold liquor, they sold alcohol. And at the time I thought to myself, I don't agree with selling alcohol. As a monk, that we have 5 precepts, we're not supposed to have alcohol. And even just the other day I caught Amandus, and he had this is one of our Nigarikas, he had some soya sauce, and we had to get rid of it because the soya sauce had 2.5% alcohol. And even that amount is very dangerous to monks. You can imagine the monks drinking soya sauce and getting merry. It actually happened once. That I'm not sure when the last time I told this story. The 4 monks, actually one of them here was here a few weeks ago visiting, not Ajahn, but it's another monk. It's Ajahn Pasna, I don't mind telling the name, he wouldn't mind. And he received some wine gums from his family in Canada for Christmas. And usually wine gums, you think they're just sweets, but these wine gums had real wine in them. Now it's okay. Maybe, the last time you had alcohol was maybe only a year ago, or I hope not 5 minutes ago, but if it was, like a monk many, many years ago, your sensitivity to that really goes up. And so just wine gums, he shared it out with 3 of his friends, and we had 4 very merry monks. But I go to my funny stories now. I can't resist this story either. Because many of you know with great love and respect Ajahn Dhammo. He was here again very recently. He stayed such a long time in our monastery. He's a very wonderful monk and a good friend. He called me up on some other business yesterday. But apparently that he was on a flight from Adelaide, because that's where he was born, in Adelaide, back here to Perth, because he stayed in Perth maybe 7, 8, 9 years or something. It's a really nice monk, a very good monk, very well behaved, good meditator, great speaker. And when he came off the plane in Perth, he smelled like a distillery. Literally did. He told me what happened. He said when he went on the plane in Adelaide, he was sitting next to this business person who was terrified of flying. That's the only way to get to Perth quick enough, and the only way to overcome his fear was actually partaking of the free alcohol which was given on board. So he had a glass of whiskey as soon as they took off, and he had kept on getting more whiskey and more whiskey. And so he was talking to Ajahn Dhammo, who was sitting next to him and just trying to find some ways of overcoming his fear. And Ajahn was teaching him some Buddhism, but he was still drinking the whiskey. And unfortunately, by the time they get to Perth, it's only a maybe 2.5-hour flight. He had so much whiskey, he was already not all that stable. And they hit turbulence when he had a full glass of whiskey in his hand, and it went right over Ajahn Dhammo's robe. And it was just before he landed. And so that's why when he came out, he reeked of whiskey. And that's the story he told us. But I'm sure it was correct as well. It was very embarrassing as a monk, when you smell of whiskey, especially a senior monk like that. But anyhow, so a lot of times, I don't know, get into this story. Oh, that's right, in beliefs. And why actually people have these very, very, very strong beliefs, and what's the effect of those beliefs? Now, there's the priorities is the problem. And I think that There was a story which I told here many years ago, which is important to understand. Why beliefs, we all right to have our beliefs, but make sure the most important beliefs are held first and topmost. It's a story which I actually tell at every wedding ceremony, and it's actually in that book, Open the Door of Your Heart. I don't mind telling it again, but many of you know the story, maybe even by heart, about the chicken and the duck story. And it's important to understand this story because I'm going to expand it afterwards about just how it's the prioritizing of beliefs causes a problem. It's okay to have beliefs, but make sure the most important beliefs are held first of all. And that was a story of the couple, just freshly married, going for a walk one evening in the forest when they heard a sound, quack, 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 quack. And straight away the husband said, "Oh, listen, darling, that's a chicken. It's a chicken." And the wife said, "What do you say, darling?" I said, "It's a chicken." And the wife said, "Look, darling, look, chickens go cock-a-doodle-doo, ducks go quack, quack. That was a duck, okay?" She said, No, that's a chicken, I'm sure." Husband said, "No, it's a duck." And he went quack, quack again. "No, it's a duck." She said, "No, it's a chicken." He said, "It's a duck." She said, "It's a chicken." He said, "It's a duck. D-U-C-K, duck. Have you got it?" And she started to cry. And she said, but it's a chicken." And then he realized what was really important, why he married her. He thought, squeezed her hand and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, darling, I think you are right, that is a chicken." And it went quack, quack again. And the pair of them walked happily all evening without any problem. Now, those of you who have heard this story before, you will know that every time I tell this story, I switch it around who says it's a chicken and who says it's a duck. Otherwise, people will really get me for gender discrimination. In that particular case, it was a man who was a smart fellow. He was a compassionate, wise one. For two reasons. Number one, is it really important being right about chickens or ducks? Is that really important? What that man realized, it's more important to have harmony and peace than to be right about whether it's a chicken or a duck. He had his priorities right, and this is why I tell this story again here. And number two, I often say, is sometimes you really think that what you believe is right, when it could be wrong. That could have been a genetically modified chicken. Made to sound like a duck. Now you can see how beliefs cause the arguments and the problems. During the meditation we had a wonderful argument back there, which I'm sure you heard as I heard, in the house next door. Why do we have arguments like that between our loved ones? It's because, one, we believe we're right, and then that people have actually, I've told that story for so many years now, people have actually given me articles. They gave me an article of this one person. They had a chicken and it was raised with a group of ducks, and it is a chicken which actually does go quack quack. Literally, there are such beings around. So you can be wrong. But actually that gives me another reason of telling that story. It gives me the introduction to tell this evening's real joke. And this joke is dedicated to Ajahn Sujato in Sydney, who told me this joke yesterday morning. And it's about the two chickens. The two ducks. Even I get it wrong. Now these were two ducks swimming in a pond. Two ducks swimming in a pond, and one duck went quack quack. And the other duck said, "Damn it, I was going to say that." It's a stupid joke. It's so funny. Anyway, back to the reality of beliefs. The point was there that man, or when I tell it the other way around, when the man says it's a chicken and the wife says, "Oh, you're right, dear," isn't the most important thing just having peace and harmony together? So if we believe in that first, we believe in peace, we believe in harmony, we believe in love, number one. And then whether it's a chicken or a duck, or whether God created the world, whether it's reincarnation, or whether, that Allah was the last prophet or whatever, keep that secondary. And if we have the right priorities for our belief systems, I think then, we have solved much of the problem about sort of the beliefs in the world and the way they create difficulties and problems in the world. And the other example of that, which I love saying, is that story some years ago when the Marines in Guantanamo Bay flushed a copy of the Quran down the toilet. You all heard about that. And when they flushed the Quran down the toilet, there was a big uproar in the Muslim world. And at the same time, here in Nollamara, a couple of days later, someone asked me at question time, what would you do, Ajahn Brahm, if somebody flushed a Buddhist holy book down the toilet? And you can see those Buddhist holy books, we've got them in the library there, they're thick volumes. What would you do as a Buddhist if someone flushed a Buddhist holy book down the toilet? And I said, if they flushed a Buddhist holy book down the toilet, I'd call a plumber. That's most important. But more important than that, and the reason I tell this story for its priorities, I said, you can flush the Buddhist holy book down the toilet, but I'm not going to allow you to flush Buddhism down the toilet. You can blow up the Bamiyan Buddha statues, but I'm not going to allow you to destroy what the Buddha taught. Peace, forgiveness, harmony. You can blow up all the temples, Buddhist temples in the world. You can kill all the monks and nuns. But please never allow them to kill your peace, your harmony, your forgiveness, your love. Because that's the most important. What it's doing here is understanding the difference between what I call the containers and the contents. And I think it's the contents has got always higher priority than the containers. And the containers are the Buddha statues, the books, the monks, the nuns, the temples. They contain something which people really believe in. Why you come here? You don't believe in Nollamara. No, that's just a suburb. Even this centre here, you don't believe in the bricks and the roof and the concrete here. You don't even believe in the monks and nuns. At least I hope you don't. Otherwise you're missing the point. You certainly don't believe in the bronze Buddha statue over there. It's just a piece of metal, that's all. But hopefully you believe in what it stands for. That you do really believe in the power of peace. You really do believe in the power of forgiveness. In love. In freedom. And these are the things which once you prioritise those, sure that if you do destroy the temple, and somebody comes and blows it or burns it down tonight, you don't allow that to destroy what this whole temple represents. The peace, the freedom. That's what you come here for. So it's important to actually prioritise our systems of beliefs. What's most important first of all. And I think if all religions could only see the contents of their containers, the books, the symbols, even that thing about the cartoons, they're just worrying about the containers. Why allow a few cartoons to destroy the peace, the love and the forgiveness, the mercy? And if we understand that, what's really important to prioritise, then we can believe in what's really, really important first of all. I think it's because of that the right to believe should be prioritised first of all. So we believe in the important things first of all. And the secondary things, we can believe in them, but not at the expense of what's really, really important. When you understand the prioritising of beliefs, I think then you can understand that why there should be no absolute right to believe in this sort of secondary or the tertiary beliefs, things like what religion you want to believe in or what practices you want to do, when it really infringes on the primary beliefs. The sorts of things like peace and freedom, and love and forgiveness and non-violence. I think those are primary. When we do that, then we can understand that when you come to a place like this, that what we're really teaching is not sort of a cult. Because it's interesting actually that talking about those cults, when we first opened shop here in Perth 25 years ago, we had a small centre in North Perth, which many of you were there at the time when we opened up that centre. And one of our caretakers now, she was there in those early days, and she said that in those early days she received a visit from the cult buster of Perth, was trying to find out whether these Buddhists were a cult. Now, being a really nice Australian girl, just very kind, just really down to earth, really pleasant, the cult buster was taken aback by her just friendliness. And so, this can't be a cult, a nice Australian girl like this, being friendly, inviting me in for a cup of tea. But actually, when he went into this small house where we lived, they had the room with the Buddha statues. The same Buddha statue was in the room just over there, which we moved over here. And as soon as he saw that, he screamed and ran away. So sometimes they think that just because these images were about a cult, but over those years, obviously we're not a cult, as I keep on saying to you and to my monks. My main purpose in life as a teacher is to get rid of you. Not to get more disciples. Just like as a school teacher, you teach the classes, you want people to graduate. You want people to know exactly how to live their lives and about wisdom and how to meditate, so they don't need to come back anymore. I must be a terrible teacher, because some of you keep coming back week after week after week. Talk about remedial slow learners. But of course, the whole purpose, of this type of religion is not to take your power away, but to empower you. Empower you to find your way through the thicket of views, as the Buddha called it. To find your way through this idea of beliefs, of which is the right one, which is the wrong one. And how can you decide? Again, right and wrong. Put that all in terms of those primary beliefs, the highest level of beliefs, because you realise that is really important. That is what inspires you, that is what liberates you, that is what everybody wants to see grow in this world. Forgiveness, love, peace, freedom, whatever. Those high level beliefs, put them number one. And then it's very easy to find your way, again, through those thickets of views. Because you see, what actually gives rise to peace, to freedom, to love? And what gives rise to, what's it called, imprisonment and manipulation? One of those things which is the common cause for imprisonment is like the power which comes from imposing people's beliefs on others. And that's one thing which we have to be very, very careful of, and I've been very, very careful of in all the years I've been a teacher, to make sure that you're not imposing beliefs on other people, you're not brainwashing people. One of the best ways of brainwashing people is to get them very quiet and silent for half an hour first of all, so the brains are open. But no, it's important to encourage people to question. And that brings me on to this wonderful piece of advice which I heard from one of the monks of our tradition in England, because he was approached by this Western couple who had just given birth to their first child. And they were inspired to follow the Buddhist path. They were Caucasians. And they came out to this monk and said, look, we just got a child. How should we bring up our child? Should we bring him up as a Buddhist? Or is that indoctrinating our child? Or should we take him to all the different religions and confuse the hell out of him? Or should we do nothing at all? What should we do? And that's just a very good question which we need to ask, because some of you have got your children. You don't want to indoctrinate them. But what you really want to do is to empower them to make wise decisions for themselves. And the answer which this monk gave is just so Buddhist, but clearly so. He said, encourage your children in two things. Number one, to always question. Keep questioning and questioning and questioning and questioning. And when your child questions and you say, no, just believe, don't do that. Encourage their questioning. And number 2, encourage them in honesty. Not just like speaking truthfully, but at that honesty of the mind, so you won't accept something if it does not make sense. So keep on questioning and only stop when you can honestly say to yourself, yeah, that fits my experience, that makes sense, okay, I'll accept that for the time being. Because he said with that honesty, that intellectual, experiential honesty, and that always encouraging questioning, he said you're empowering your child to find the truth for themselves. No matter what that truth happens to be, they will find it for themselves with those 2 tools. And that was encapsulating something which encouraged me to be a Buddhist, because you were always allowed to question, you were encouraged to question, so you never put off questioning. And if you didn't get a straight answer, you could actually say, I don't believe that. And the monks and the teachers I had said, fine, you don't have to believe that if you don't know, if it doesn't make sense. But keep on questioning, keep on being honest, checking your experience. And that seemed to be the way of actually finding out, a solid basis for a belief. But then it went further than that, because as a monk I was taught how to meditate. And when you meditate, the mind gets so clear, you find out where all these beliefs come from. And just why some people hold on to beliefs so stubbornly, even though they should know it's really wrong. And it's that stubbornness, the way we hold on to beliefs, even though they're completely ridiculous, which really always interested me. Because why is it that people believe in some of these stupid things? Apparently there was a program on Scientology a few days ago. Somebody was talking to me about that this morning, and say, how can somebody actually believe in such stuff? And that's a great question to ask. Why do people have these beliefs? Where do they come from? And it's the psychology of the mind is such that however you start with a belief, a lot of times, it's because you have your authority figures, you take them, they must know. And some of those authority figures, they're not just monks. Sometimes people ask, people like Madonna or sort of Justin Timberlake, and he said it must be true. We have these celebrities who may be like good musicians, but they haven't got a clue about philosophy or religion, but still, people actually believe what they say. It's amazing just who in our society we give authority to. And those authority figures have that first influence on our beliefs. Obviously our parents and our first teachers influence our beliefs immensely. Our peers influence our beliefs. But once those beliefs get in there, it stokes a whole cycle which, what the Buddha pointed out, is just the way of the delusion of the cognitive process, I call it. Because once you have a belief, then you perceive according to that belief. And actually what your senses bring to your conscious mind becomes filtered. You don't see or hear or even feel what's there. You see, you feel, you hear what you want to experience. What you don't like experiencing, that doesn't even reach consciousness. The filtering process happens. And I think you've all experienced that from time to time. When you've fallen in love. When you've fallen in love with that beautiful woman. She is the most wonderful, beautiful woman in the whole world. And you're so lucky that she has chosen you. And other people think, huh? You could do better than that. That's called cognitive distortion. Because you're in love, you want to see the very best in that person. But then, unfortunately in our society, there comes a time of divorce. And then she looks at him and thinks, why did I ever marry that guy? There's no redeeming features in him at all. He's ugly, he's selfish, he's cruel, he hasn't got a caring bone in his own body. It's amazing that when you've got anger, you can't see any redeeming feature in them at all. Have you ever noticed whenever you get really, really angry at somebody, you're so surprised that other people actually like them? So, when you're very angry, again, you're in denial. That belief that they are a terrible person, that they are awful, they are rotten, that actually filters out any redeeming feature coming into your conscious mind. This is just an example amongst many that you actually see, you feel, you hear what you want to believe, not what's actually true. This is where beliefs distort our perceptual process. I still remember that time when I had my first glass of beer. It was disgusting beer. So English beer, bitter, no sweetness to it at all. It tasted rotten. But because everybody else liked it, I had to like it pretty quickly. And that's all it needed. And after a few months, I liked the taste of beer. And why? That's why they call it an acquired taste. And why is that? It's because we had to like it. I'd already mentioned to you some of the food which I used to eat in Thailand, like frog on rice, like grasshoppers. Now, I already heard a few people just, almost throw up when I said grasshoppers, but you know that the fried grasshoppers, they were actually quite delicious. I quite like them. But when I say that, obviously you think, yuck, because of your belief, that distorts your perception. And if I gave you a grasshopper to eat now, you say yuck, you probably throw up, not because it tasted nice or didn't taste nice, but because you believed it doesn't taste nice. Many years ago, about 18 years ago, I was invited to Rolling Stone Primary School to teach a class on Buddhism. And again, sometimes you're so busy, or you think you're going to teach us year 7s or something, but they gave me year 1. And how on earth do I teach Buddhism to year 1? But always being up for a challenge. This is actually, I dealt with it, and it's actually, I was quite pleased, that I came up with this idea. I had about 2 or 3 classes of year 1s there, and I asked them, put your hands up if you like rice pudding. There's a rice pudding story. And about three kids put their hand up. No, sorry, not they liked, if you hated rice pudding, if you didn't like rice pudding. 3 kids put their hand up, they hated rice pudding. And the other kids looked around, like year 1s are, so a few other kids put their hand up too. And it only took about 5 seconds, and about 50 kids had their hands up. Yes, we don't like rice pudding. Put your hands down, kids. Now put your hands up if you've ever eaten rice pudding. And about 6 kids put their hands up. And all the other kids laughed. So did the parents and the teachers. They got the point. I taught them Buddhism. Just about you distort your likes and dislikes. The peer pressure of your friends, what you really like, what you don't like. Now you understand the peer pressure of belief systems. Why, you go around with other Buddhists and you think, yeah, Buddhism is the best religion. Or you go around with Christians and think Christianity is the only way. Or you hang out with Muslims and think, we should make Australia a Muslim state. Do you understand how this works? Just explained it with the rice pudding story. And a lot of times we just assume these things, even though we haven't experienced them. And this is one of the most important things about the Buddhist teachings. How to overcome these stupid beliefs. Is actually, instead of actually just believing it, just on hearsay, or because it's our tradition, because everybody else believes it, yeah, we don't like rice pudding. And you all stick up your hands and, well, yeah, we don't believe in reincarnation. or we do believe in reincarnation, or we believe in Nibbana. How many of you believe in Nibbana? Do you even know what you're talking about, what Nibbana actually is? So instead of actually having these beliefs, first of all we understand how beliefs actually distort your perceptions. And once you have these perceptions, you only receive what confirms what you actually view. People look into the sky, and they will, if they're a Christian, they'll actually see a picture of the Virgin Mary or something. Look into the sky, and you're say a Buddhist, you might see Kuan Yin, the goddess of mercy or whatever. It's amazing what people see. And what they're seeing is not what's there, but what they project onto reality. And once you have your perceptions, you form your thoughts from your perceptions. You think according to how the data comes into your consciousness. Your whole thinking process then reaffirms your view. Yes, I was right. A very stunning example of this was actually in Raymond Moody's book, I think Life After Life. It was a book of people who had out-of-the-body experiences or near-death experiences, and the classic cases of floating out of your body, going to the light. But this particular part of the story was who you saw when you went to the other side of the light. Because I don't know if any of you have had those experiences, or know people had those experiences, but some people actually they go through the light and they see Jesus Christ. And they come back afterwards. Christianity was right. I've actually seen Jesus in that near-death experience, and I go to church every week after that. But this, Tom Moody, because Dr. Moody, Tom Moody was a cricketer, sorry. Dr. Moody, he was in one of these very poor areas and these hospitals where they had people from different faiths. It was a multicultural society around the hospital. So he didn't just get Christians, not just Protestants, he got a few Catholics as well. When the Catholics went through the light, they didn't see Jesus, they saw the Virgin Mary. So it's quite clear to them that Catholicism was right. And this was their experience, they'd actually seen the Virgin Mary. But there's also some Hindus. They saw Lord Krishna. Some Jews, they saw Moses. Some Buddhists, they saw Kuan Yin. And there was even atheists as well. And guess who they saw? Uncle George. And when I read all of that, it was really fascinating. What's going on there? And I wrote about this in the little book about mindfulness, bliss and beyond. Is it the case that when you go up to heaven there's a big waiting room, and sort of all these people there, Jesus is there, Virgin Mary is there, Kuan Yin is there, Moses was there, Buddha's over there, and they're all waiting to see who's coming up and say, oh, it's a Catholic, Virgin Mary, you better take care of this. No, here comes a Buddhist, so Kuan Yin, you look after this one, it's one of yours. It's an atheist, Uncle George, come on, your turn. Obviously, that's just being cheeky. That's not what happens, obviously. And because I know the nature of the mind, I know exactly what happens. This is how I see it. Everyone sees the same thing. But they add to it. If they're a Christian, because of their beliefs, their perception adds to what they see. And they take that, what they see, this beautiful light, to be Jesus. Of the Catholic, they see it as the Virgin Mary, or if they see it as a Buddhist, they see it as who they expect to see when they go up there. And that perception is so strong, it actually changes just the way you view things. You don't see what's there, you see what you expect to see, what you expect to feel, what you expect to know. And you come back from those experiences, and your original belief system gets even stronger. It's what the Buddha called the danger of our beliefs. They are always self-affirming. No matter what belief you have, the craziest of beliefs will always prove themselves to be true. If you believe in something, you'll perceive accordingly. The perceptions will create the thoughts, which are the building blocks for the views. When I read that, and I understood that, I saw how dangerous beliefs are. Because everyone who believes in whatever they believe in, you always think you're right. And I think it was even Aristotle said this, but I worked this out separately. You can never believe you are wrong. That's a logical impossibility. You believe you're wrong. You believe you were wrong, but you think you're right about that. Every belief, you always think you're right. That's why people have arguments outside. We always believe we're right. And the wisdom is when we understand the nature of beliefs, we can always take them as not so important. What you believe to be truth is not so important as the higher beliefs, the trust in peace and harmony, forgiveness. If we don't have that higher priority, there is no hope for this world. We have to have that higher priority of beliefs. Otherwise, in the end, we just go and kill each other or just wreck the whole planet. And no one will, I suppose, it says in the Bible, the meek shall inherit the earth. But that was before they knew about global warming. So, do you want to inherit that type of earth? So, it's much, much better to actually to do something about this belief system by encouraging this questioning and this honesty. But not only just the questioning, the honesty, but the stillness of the mind to go to experiences. One of the biggest delusions in the world is just trusting our thinking process. It's the intellectuals, unfortunately, create the most problem. The books are the problem. Because most religions hit themselves over the head with their books. Instead of having the books and the intellectual, it's much more important actually to feel the truth, to experience it. I was telling the monks, and you've heard this in some of the meditation instructions I've given to you over the years, the story from Taoism, from Lao Tzu, where he would go for a walk with his disciples, or with one disciple every evening. One day he went for a walk with a new disciple. They had a golden rule: you weren't allowed to talk when you were walking with the master. But this occasion they reached a hillside, a crest of a hill, and it was sunset. And the student couldn't help but say, "Wow, what a beautiful sunset." At which the master turned around, would never allow that disciple to go on a walk with him ever again. He'd broken the golden rule. When the other students said, "Why are you being so strict?" the master said, and this is the most important point, when that student said, "What a beautiful sunset," he wasn't watching the sunset anymore. He was only watching the words. He was watching the words, not the sunset. And this is the problem with beliefs. When we watch words, rather than the thing which they're trying to describe, we usually get it all wrong. When we read the books, rather than thinking what they're pointing to, we get it all wrong. So it's important that we become much more experiential than intellectual, with our search for the right truths in which to believe in. And again, this is what the Buddha was saying: by practicing your meditation, you're actually empowering the mind to become more truthful in the way it experiences the world. And instead of just experiencing the world in dullness, we have a bright mind which can see and perceive far more deeply than ordinarily. And with those deeper perceptions, what we call in Buddhism insight, we can really undermine some of these very ridiculous beliefs which people have. And these ridiculous beliefs are very important to undermine. Otherwise, we're going to destroy ourselves on this planet. It's the belief that, if you sort of kill for the love of God or the love of Buddha or whatever, you go to some heaven realm. And if you follow your internal sort of experiential feelings, that can't be right. But if you go to the books and the peers and you don't question, you have no honesty, people can believe that. It's the right thing to do, to go and kill for the sake of God. And it's a very dangerous belief. And if we could only start to get people to be still and see for themselves, rather than believing in the thinking process, then we may have a chance to actually to undermine those dangerous beliefs and to reinstate the more important beliefs, the priority of beliefs which I said earlier. And so as Buddhists, I'm a Buddhist, it's the peace and the freedom and the harmony, the love, that I was put most important. And then they say, well, what type of Buddhist are you? Theravada, I'm supposed to be a Theravada monk, or the Mahayana, or Hinayana, or Vajrayana. We've got the Dalai Lama coming soon, in a few weeks' time, and he's supposed to be Vajrayana monk. I'm supposed to be Hinayana monk, or Theravada, and other monks are Mahayana monk. But you all know which Buddhism I follow. It's not Mahayana, it is Hahayana, that's right. I like to follow the Hahayana school of Buddhism. Have a bit of fun and games with your spiritual life, don't be so serious. It's very hard to blow someone up when you're laughing all over your face, or get into a big argument with somebody. Have you ever noticed how laughter creates harmony amongst people? When you laugh, you always laugh together. So sometimes when you crack a joke with, what's that? Another thing about beliefs. I don't know when the last time I told this old joke about the Pope and the Archbishop of Canterbury deciding which was right, Christianity or Catholicism or Protestantism. And they had a big debate. Having a debate about these things, they got nowhere deciding. So they decided, in the end, to have a golf match. And because, obviously, there's only one God, and if God was a Catholic, he'd make sure the Pope won. If God was a Protestant, then the Archbishop would win. So, let God decide, through the game of golf, who was going to win. So they decided on this, and the terms were, if the Pope won, then the Archbishop of Canterbury and all the Protestants would convert to Catholicism. And if the Archbishop of Canterbury won, then the Pope would become a Protestant. So it's big stakes. So you can imagine what it was like, really, really nervous. And it was a very, very close contest. It all came down to the last hole, the 18th hole. And by that time, the Pope was 2 strokes ahead. However, the Archbishop, he did a good tee shot. He was in the hole in 3. And the Pope got onto the green, just in 2. If he held his putt, he would win by 2 strokes. So he asked his caddy, who happened to be a nun, for his putter. And he got his putter, he lined up, and he was pretty on good form. And the Pope lined up the putter, and he hit the ball straight for the hole. But it went too hard. It rimmed the hole, went about 3 foot the other side. And because of his excitement, the Pope said, "Damn it, missed." He swore. And the nun crossed herself and said, "Your Holiness, you shouldn't swear. That's against what we're supposed to be doing. You're the Pope, the leader, you shouldn't swear like that." And the Pope said, "I'm terribly, terribly, terribly sorry. Just the excitement. I do apologise. This is important. Now I have to hold this one to win. And if I don't hold this one, I'm in big trouble." So he got his putter and he hit the ball, went way past the hole again. He said, "Damn it, missed." And I said, "Look, I warned you, crossing herself. You shouldn't tempt the Lord." He said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I've got this putt to draw. And if I miss this one, I'll have to become a Protestant." And so he took the putter and he hit it. This time went straight towards the hole, but stopped a millimetre short. And he said, "Damn it, missed." And before the nun had a chance to cross herself, there was a big roar of thunder from the sky. And a lightning bolt came down and hit the nun, killed her. And the voice from the sky came out, "Damn it, missed." Oh, I'm sure you've heard that one before. So whatever, that's no way to sort of settle your differences and find out who's wrong and who's right. So in our belief system, we've got to be very, very careful to understand where beliefs come from. Always to challenge those beliefs, because this is, that's a joke, but it's an important problem in our life. Please remember that story of the chicken and the duck, because a lot of times our beliefs, we think being right about a chicken or a duck, or being right about whether God's a Protestant or a Catholic or a Buddhist or whatever, those are stupid questions. We should not give them importance, otherwise we create too many wars. We will not have any harmony between the peoples of our world. Isn't it more important we put things like compassion, peace, freedom, love, even wisdom if you like, high up? So if you come here and people say, well, you're a Buddhist, what do you believe in? Do you believe in Buddha, or do you believe in God, or what do you believe in? Do you believe in reincarnation? Wouldn't it be a wonderful thing to say, I just believe in peace. I believe in compassion. I believe in investigation and questioning and honesty. You say you believe in those things. I think that you are telling other people what's really, really important. And I think that if they're a real good Christian, a good Muslim, a good Jew or whatever, then they say, well, yeah, I can believe in those things as well. We're having a belief in something which is important, which is not going to create problems and difficulties in the world. And we have a right to those beliefs. But I don't think we have the right to abandon those beliefs, to destroy those beliefs for something which is secondary. I don't think anyone has the right to destroy their marriage over being right about whether it's a chicken or a duck. That is stupidity. Nor I think do we have a right to destroy our world by abandoning peace, compassion, forgiveness, harmony, for just whether you should be a Tibetan Buddhist or a Thai Buddhist or a Sri Lankan Buddhist or a Christian or a Protestant or a Muslim or a Jew or whatever. I think those are lesser beliefs. I don't think we have a right for that. So, the right to believe. What is that right to believe, and what is belief? So those are just some reflections for you to take home with you, hopefully to create a peaceful, happier and wiser world. Thank you. Okay, any comments or questions about that? Yes?
Ajahn, oftentimes I think people hold beliefs because the alternative is hanging in the unknown, fear of the unknown, or fear of not knowing, or fear of loss of control. Could you say something about the requirements, the things that you need to have and find within yourself to move from that space of belief into just coping with more of the fear of the unknown? Because oftentimes, people, you as a monk, you're fairly focused on living in the present moment. Probably that's also the most of us here. And that requires a great capacity to live in the unknown. Can you say something about that?
Okay, you asked me the question for the tape about living in the unknown. And so suggesting that many people, they adopt a belief because out of to overcome the fear of the unknown. And there's two aspects of that which I got from your question, which I just summarised in brief. First of all, the unknown of the future. And sometimes some of our belief systems are there because they're guaranteeing, that's what they say anyway, guaranteeing happiness, success, freedom, whatever it is, bliss for the future. Believe in this and then you go to heaven. Or you get the virgins, or whatever else you believe in. You can believe in that particular system of beliefs. And it's one of the important points to people to understand is that the only way to get a happy future and a successful future, a safe future, is to investing your energy in the present moment. Because this is where the future is born. This is where it's generated. This is where we build our future, now. And putting off that building, that work to create a good future till tomorrow or even the next moment is too late. That's why when you understand how this present moment builds our future, and we understand that it's not sort of just trusting in the unknown, we're making that sort of indeterminate future more productive, more safe, more happy, the more we look after this present moment. By looking after this moment, you're creating a positive future for yourself. In other words, by making good karma now, you get the results in the future. Law of karma, but I just put it in knowing that the future is generated here and now. There's also the fear of just the unknown, what's working, what's happening, who am I, what's the meaning of life, and all those sorts of questions. And again, I think that is because we're not encouraged actually to do the work, to empower a person to ask those questions, to feel them, to know them for yourself. You don't need to be a university professor to know the answer to those questions. These aren't intellectual questions. A lot of people, because they didn't do so well at school, because they're not university professors in philosophy, they think, how am I supposed to find out the answers to those questions? Well, usually in many of those mystic traditions, it's the simple people had the greatest wisdom. What it's actually saying, you don't need the degrees to be wise. You don't need to have, got the Beasley medal to be the smart person. Really, that wisdom has nothing to do with the learning we get in schools. In order to know, we need to be confident that we can know. And that's what sometimes our grading system in school takes away from us, our confidence. And that's exploited by people who want to impose a belief on you. That you can't know for yourself, they say, so believe in us. And Buddhism says you are all fully competent to know for yourselves. And Buddhism will help you, give you the tools to know for yourselves. That's what mindfulness is all about, being aware. Not the thinking mind, but the knowing mind. So that in your experience in life, you know what's true, you can feel it, and you trust in that. And my job and other teachers is to give you confidence, to trust in that, rather than any book or any teaching. So the answer, the two parts answer to the question. First of all, the fear of the future is understanding the importance of the present moment. Law of karma, if you like. And secondly, the fear of how can I know? That is by monks like myself, giving you the confidence and the tools. Say, here you are, you can do it, go and find out. And not exploiting people and thinking no one can do it. Yes, a question from over here?
Yeah, Ajahn Brahmavamso, if we choose to receive the Buddhist teachings from Theravada monks such as yourself, does that make us terrorists?
Okay, because Theravada is saying, if you are a follower of Theravada teachings, do you become Theravadaists? I'll try my best to make a joke out of that, but I think some people get it. Now, of course, because it's important not to be someone who destroys things. Even if you disagree with somebody, don't destroy them. You can see the argument in the back there, when we're meditating. There's people destroying each other. That's not the way. To be able to talk to another person, you have to get that empathy first of all. You have to get that friendship. That takes a lot of time to get friendship with another person. And then, when there's friendship, you can actually talk and understand each other. You can listen to each other. Communication only comes from trust. If we don't trust people with different beliefs, when there's that fear there, there'll always be arguments. Trust has to come first. And a good example of that, I was just saying this the other day, every year I go to Christchurch Grammar School to give a talk there because Father Frank Sheehan is a great guy, Canon Frank Sheehan. He was, I think it was Catholic, then became an Anglican. Most people go the other way around, Anglicans and Catholics, but he being a rebel went the other way around. So I remember the first time I went to give a talk at his school, standing there, outside, because the whole day I was giving talks there, starting off with the assembly in the early morning, and the principal was outside there with the Canon Frank Sheehan, who was the chaplain of the school, and myself. And the principal turned around and said, "This is a Christian school, Christchurch Grammar School. In the assembly, when we go, there's a shrine to Jesus Christ there." He said, "When we go in, we usually bow, bow our heads a little bit. But you're a Buddhist, you don't have to do this." And I decided to rebel. I said, "Why? I demand my right to bow to Jesus Christ." And I did that just to stir him up, because he really got, what's going on here? Buddhists aren't doing this. But it gave me the opportunity to say, I can always see something in that shrine which I can respect. And I'm going to bow, not to Jesus Christ, because I'm a Buddhist. I'm going to bow to what I see in that image, which I really respect. That's why I can bow to it. So what I was doing, I was saying, we've got some common ground there. We can always find some common ground. Let's start with the common ground and celebrate our common ground first of all, and then we can discuss our differences. But let's start with the common ground first of all. If you don't start with common ground, you start with the differences, you're not going to get nowhere with your wife, with your husband, with your kids, with other people. So that's why I keep getting invited back every year. So that's actually how we can break down those beliefs. Find some sort of common ground. Celebrate the common ground. And that common ground will always be peace, freedom, compassion, love. That's more important.